Hello, welcome back to the Breaking News Update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you are watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I've got a breaking news report coming out for the UK, and we're going to talk more about Europe in this video. And right now, we know that Europe is slowly starting to pull away from relying on the United States for its military. We've also been hearing some reports coming out from US President Donald Trump that, for example, NATO would not be defended or certain nations would not be defended if they were attacked by Russia, if they did not have their defense spending to a certain level. We've also been hearing that US President Donald Trump may even pull away US forces that are stationed in Eastern European nations. So obviously, Europe is in a very vulnerable position right now, and certain nations like the UK are realizing that they're on their own and they got to start defending themselves. So new reports here on your screen: UK ramping up production of explosives and shells, reducing reliance on the US. The effort is part of a wider trend among European and other allies to become less dependent on US sourced weaponry after President Donald Trump took office. Okay, so clearly we can see here they're worried about some of the statements coming out from Trump. So we're going to go over an article here, and I'm going to show you guys some information regarding this. But there's a company called BAE Systems. They're an aerospace company that's located in the UK, and they're apparently going to be building new factories across the country to produce RDX explosives, which are currently imported from the US and France. So they also want to create their own reliance on their own country and pull away from purchasing weapons from France as well. And by summer, the company aims to increase production of 155 millimeter artillery shells by a staggering 16 times compared to levels from 2 years ago. Okay, so they realize also that artillery shells are very important for their nation. So let's go ahead and jump into this, guys. We're going to hop on over here to The Guardian real quick. Just a quick article to cover for you guys today. UK set to ramp up weapons production to reduce reliance on US and French imports. Defense Secretary says lessons from Ukraine highlight need for homegrown supply chain. Yeah, so the UK is realizing that, Ukraine's been so heavily reliant on Europe and also the US for its own weapons that if they ever end up in a position where they got to go to war, they don't want to have to rely on the US, especially if the US right now is buddying up with Russia. They could completely be on their own, so they're preparing for that right now. So it says right here, Britain is set to significantly increase its weapons production in order to no longer rely on importing from the US and France. This comes as British and European defense companies move away from buying US-made weaponry and equipment due to concerns over President Donald Trump, making the country an unreliable military partner. First reported by The Times, BAE Systems, the UK defense company, has been developing new methods to make sufficient explosives and propellants in the UK to meet the Ministry of Defense and export requirements. One of the ways the company, the largest defense contractor in Europe, is doing this is by creating sites across the UK to produce RDX explosives, which are used in 155 millimeter rounds in British Army's guns and weapons. It will be able to seek to build 3 new sites to add resilience and support our ramp up of critical munitions production. According to John Healey, the defense secretary, the defense industry is the foundation of our ability to fight and win on the battlefield. He said strengthening homegrown artillery production is an important step in learning the lessons from Ukraine, boosting our industrial resilience, and making defense an engine for growth. BAE Systems said it has developed new methods to create new weapons, describing it as an innovative way to keep up with demand while removing the need for nitrocellulose and nitroglycerin, which are high in demand across global supply chains. Previously, the company imported RDX explosives from 2 main sources, the US and France. However, it wants to be in a place where its munitions are deemed to be ITAR-free, meaning it can be bought and sold on without any restrictions from the US. Steve Cardew, the business development director at BAE Systems, Maritime and Land Defense Solutions, said, "Our leap forward in synthetic, energetics, and propellant manufacture will strengthen the UK's supply chain resilience and support our ramp up of critical munitions production to meet growing demand in response to the increasingly uncertain world we're living in. It also supports economic growth through high-skilled jobs and potential export opportunities." Okay, so obviously this is a very big thing here, right? Economic growth within the country of the UK is very big. This will produce lots of jobs and create a lot of economic activity that's positive for the growth of UK. And also 2 other major concerns, right? The U.S., would they come to the backing of Europe if they were to be in a war with Russia. That's obviously a big question mark right now, as we've been seeing the U.S. butting up with Russia more and more every day. Then there's obviously the concern of Russia launching an attack onto European nations. So clearly, Europe wants to be ready for any kind of a war if it happens to break out, whether it be with Russia or another nation. But obviously, Russia being one of the biggest causes for concern right now. And we've been hearing so many reports coming out over the last year that Russia may launch an attack within the next 3 to 5 years. So clearly, certain countries like the UK and Europe are starting to get concerned about this, and they don't want their weapon supplies to be cut off from a country like the US. So they want to be reliant on themselves and themselves only, as if a war does break out, they could be all they really have. Okay, so just wanted to share this information with you guys and get this out there. Hope you got something out of this. If you did, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. With that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.